Everything is in motion. Everything vibrates. That's a fundamental law of the universe. It was laid out in ancient Hermetic texts a long time ago. You can read about it in the Kabbalion. This sense of vibration is infused into all things, whether it is the human body, whether it is an atom, an electron, a leaf, it's anything. Everything has a vibration. So how can we analyze these vibrations across different systems? How can we compare vibrations? How can we quantify the vibrations? Sometimes it is easy in terms of the physics and that type of measurement, but some things are a little more obscure. Our language, for example, how we communicate through symbols with numbers and words, whether it is the spoken word, spoken numbers, or written words or numbers. That's a little more difficult to quantify. What was revealed to me a while back, maybe a couple of years ago, was a new method of quantifying vibration in language and numbers. So the letters, the words, combined words and numbers in how we speak and what is written. And this method is termed the frequency root method. And the purpose is to get to the root of a vibration by determining its frequency in a quantitative manner. So the frequency root, it is a quantitative framework for uncovering linguistic and numeric patterns. And I've analyzed thousands and thousands of words and many numbers and combinations of words. And I can clearly know that the English language is not just a random accumulation of words and a random assortment of letters. It seems to be constructed in line with other systems, other geometries, other mathematical principles in science or otherwise. So what I want to do now, I want to explain this frequency root method in detail, and I will quantify words. I'll quantify even larger numbers and combine words and numbers so that you'll get a better understanding of what this method is, how it works, and possibly how you can relate it in your own life or how you can compare it to other systems that are out there. The frequency root method, it is a quantitative framework for uncovering linguistic and numeric patterns. So it is a method that helps us understand different systems and how they relate to each other through number. The frequency root method relies on a core principle known as trinity, which involves a 3-note chord. In our numbering system, for large numbers, we separate these out using a comma separator. So we group things into thousands. In this example, we have 123,456,789. So we have 3 octaves. In the first octave, we have 789, 456 in the second, and 123 in the third. So we have 3 main frequencies in this number. I tend to view 0 as an energetic void, so I ignore these. So when we want to determine the frequency of this number, the 123, 456, 789, we have these 3 frequencies which need to be combined. They need to be normalized and reduced into a single 3-note chord, or at least into the first octave, which will be anywhere from 1 to 999. The frequency root method seeks to combine frequencies either by multiplying or by adding. So when we have a variety of frequencies, we need to combine these and reduce them into a single frequency, into a single root frequency. In this example, I'm just going to look at numbers, and then we're going to look at the example number 456, 789. So what we want to do is we want to combine these 2 frequencies, the 456 and the 789, and we want to combine them by multiplying them first. So the first thing we do is we multiply them, and we end up with a number as 359,784. What we want to do now is we want to reduce that larger number. So in this case, we're going to add the 359 to the 784, and we will end up with 1,143. Now we want to reduce this further because we do not want to have larger numbers beyond the 1,000 marker, beyond that comma separator. We want to reduce these into a single scale, into a single octave. So now we're going to add the 1 to the 143, we get 144. So the frequency root of 456,789 is 144. So that is the root frequency when we combine the 456 and the 789 separate frequencies. Another method of combining frequencies is simply to add them. So instead of multiplying the frequencies how we did before, we're now just going to start out by adding them. And this method is called the frequency root simplified method. In this example, I have the number 123,456,789. So what we're going to do now, we're going to simply add them. We're going to add the 123 to the 456 to the 789. We end up with the number 1,368. Now we're going to reduce this. We're going to add the 1 to the 368, and we're going to get 369. So the frequency root simplified value of this 123, 456, 789 is 369. So this is the simplified combination of those three frequencies. We can apply the frequency root methods to words as well. So not just numbers, but to words. In this example, I'm taking the word universe, and we're going to convert each letter to their numeric equivalents. So U, for example, is the 21st letter in the alphabet, N is the 14th, I is the 9th, and so on. And then we simply lay out the numbers, and then we add the 1,000 mark separator. What we want to do now is combine these frequencies. So we have these 5 groupings here, and we want to combine them by multiplying them out first. So we're going to multiply each grouping out, as you can see in the second line here, and we end up with the number 21, 233, 918, 160. What we want to do now is we want to reduce this. So we will now combine these by adding them. We're going to add up these 4 groupings, and we end up with the number 1,332. Again, this is beyond the 1,000 mark separator. So we're going to simply add the 1 to the 332, and we end up with 333. So the frequency root of the word universe is 333, a trinity of threes. We can also determine the frequency root of multiple words. In this example, I'm using the word earth and sun together. So what we want to do here is determine what is the combined frequency of those 2 words. If we look at the word earth, you can see that E is the 5th letter in the alphabet, A is the 1st, R is the 18th, and so on. And for sun, S is the 19th letter, U is the 21st, N is the 14th. So for the word earth, we simply lay out all the numbers. We can group them using the comma separator. So we have 3 groups. What we want to do now is we want to multiply these 3 groups out, which I've done here. And this will give you the resulting value, 122,720. We now want to reduce this to a single octave, to a single scale. So we'll add the 122 to 720, and we end up with 842. So 842 is the quantitative value, the frequency root of the word earth. Let us now do this for sun. So we have the numbers 192, 114. We're going to group these using the comma separator. Now we multiply these out. We end up with 21,888. We add these together, and we end up with the frequency root of the word sun being equivalent to 909. Now what we want to do is we want to combine the 842 and the 909, and we do this by multiplying them to get 765,378. Now we are going to add these 2 together, and we end up with 1,143. And what we want to do now is reduce this. So we're going to add the 1 to the 143. We end up with 144. So the frequency root of the two words together, earth and sun, is 144. We can also use the frequency root method on words and numbers together. So we can combine words and numbers together. In this example, I have this word R2D2. And for those who remember, this is the little robot, that little character in Star Wars a long, long time ago, in the first Star Wars movie. So R is 18, 2 remains as 2, D is 4, and 2 remains as 2. So we have the numbers 18, 242. Now what we want to do is we want to multiply the 18 by the 242, so multiplying the two groups, we end up with 4,356. We need to reduce this now, so we're going to add the 4 to the 356, and we get 360. So the frequency root of that Star Wars character known as R2D2 is 360. So far, we have looked at the frequency root of words or combinations of words, where the first step is to multiply out the frequencies together. So we combine the frequencies by multiplying them. Now we're going to combine the frequencies by adding them. And this method is this frequency root simplified method. I'll take the word poet. We can see here that P is the 16th letter, O is the 15th, E is the 5th, and T is the 20th. So we can combine these and add the comma separator at the 1,000 mark groupings. So we have three groups, 1, 615, and 520. And so instead of multiplying these frequencies out right away, we're going to simply add them. So we're going to add the 1 to the 615 to the 520, and we end up with 1,136. We want to reduce this, so we're going to add the 1 to the 136, and we end up with 137. The frequency root simplified of the word poet is 137. Now 137, or I should say 1 over 137, is known as the fine structure constant in physics, and it is the strength of the interaction between charged particles. I won't really get into it more beyond that, but this is the kind of thing that I've seen throughout my study of language and the study of words, is that there will be words that have related vibrations in other systems, whether it be chemistry or maybe geometry or physics and other systems as well. So I found this method, the frequency root and the simplified method, to be valuable in understanding relationships. I've calculated the frequency root of thousands and thousands of words in the English language, and so many of them have stood out for me, with the values being very important numbers in mathematics, in geometry specifically, in physics and chemistry, mysticism, and more. I just want to present 4 of them here, 4 examples that stand out for me. The first is ACGT. Now that is an acronym for adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine, which are the amino acids that make up our DNA. And when we look at the frequency root of ACGT, it comes out as 369. And there is a quote by Nikola Tesla that says, if you could understand the significance of the 3, 6, and 9, you would have the keys to the universe. So that is very telling. In the second example, we have the word angel and angle, with the last 2 letters just being swapped between them. And the combined frequency root of the 2 words is 360. So there is a geometric sense of wholeness between those 2. When we look at the words positive, negative, and neutral, which is a trinity, we end up with the harmonic frequency 432. So possibly this harmonic frequency is in fact made up of a trinity of 144. The word water, and water for us is life. The frequency root of the word water comes out as 111. Now, every number stems from 1. 1 is the base fractal, and every number is a fractal of 1. So water is a trinity of this base fractal. And there are thousands and thousands more words that are so interesting. So there you have it, the frequency root method in its original form and the simplified form is a quantitative framework for uncovering linguistic and numeric patterns. We can use this methodology to combine frequencies so we can look into words and numbers and how they relate both within language and to other systems like geometry, physics, chemistry, sciences, and beyond. You can use the methodologies described in this video to calculate the frequencies of words or numbers. You can use your birth date, or you can use your name or other words or phrases. And maybe some of these values that are derived will have meaning in your life, or maybe you'll be able to see how these numbers relate to other systems. If you don't want to do that, there is a frequency root calculator on my website at arianway.com. There's a menu item, and you can enter words or phrases and decode the frequency of the combined vibrations. And in some cases, you'll see below, there'll be a description if the resulting number matches a solfeggio frequency that is in the solfeggio frequency matrix by G.W. Hardin, or perhaps the number that is decoded matches a phi blueprint or a universal blueprint, and I have descriptions for those if they do show up. So play around with this frequency root calculator and just see how those numbers relate to other systems, either personally or beyond. If you are interested in learning more about the frequency root method, I invite you to check out my book, Decoding the Mysteries of the Universe, and you can find it at arianway.com.